Welcome back, everybody. This is Grace, and today we're going to be talking about some GGBs that just got released. Last week's update, which came out on Friday, a few days late to the party, but is what it is. So we got some rare golden gift boxes, the Mana Cascade spell, which I think looks quite nice. I'm a big fan of the artwork. And then we also got two new rare weapons, which I'll talk about in detail quite soon, don't you worry. But they look a little bit like Warlic staff, which I'm super excited about because I actually thought the ultra rares looked like Warlic staff. But anyways, I'll show you the ultra rares as well. So for the ultra rares, we have two more weapons. The Frost Warcaster staff, oh okay. And the Aqua, so two water ice spellcasting weapons. One for ultra rare, one for rare. And we also got the Call Astral Mire guest, which you can't see. It looks pretty abstract. I think it's got some like runes on it and whatnot. No pet version, which is mildly interesting, but not that surprising. And we've also got the Arcane Rift key, which is a misc, which does some pretty cool stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute here. But those are the items, and while I yap about them, because I would love to show you them in combat, but to be honest, I haven't decided which ones I'm going to buy, and I don't want to make a rushed decision and then regret it later. Here we go. So we are going to do instead, we're going to be looking for the Dragon Wrong, or the Dragon Wrong Wraith, which is like a rare typo that you can encounter. Not typo, it's like an intentional glitch monster. Instead of like Wraith, it's spelled wrong. It's like Wraith or something. Anyways, you'll see very quickly if I see it. If I don't see it, you'll have no clue what I'm talking about. But apparently we didn't soft lock the game, we just lagged hella. Summoning Leprechaun. Okay, I mean it happens, I guess. We go to full offensive, even though we're going to be using spell type skills because it makes oh. So is everything lagging? Hold on. I don't know if everything's lagging. Anyways, you guys don't care about the technical difficulties I encounter playing Adventure Quest. What I want to talk to you guys about is the items. So, although this lag is quite distracting, we'll see if it gets better. What I want to talk about is the items. So, we're going to start with the rare items. Actually, no. We're going to start with the items I think are the worst. And that would be, firstly, the Call Astral Mire guest. Now, this is an ultra rare guest. I think if it were a rare guest, it would be pretty good, but it's an ultra rare, so it has a lot of things it competes with. But what it does is it's a 3-hit water guest. It has two modes, one for damage. Actually, the damage mode is 2-hit. And it deals a little bit more damage if they have lower than spellcasting mana. Whatever that basically just means, if they don't cast spells, you'll deal 10% more damage, which is nice. The other mode is a 3-hit, and in that mode, it takes half its damage to heal MP, but it has a trigger that if the foe has less than average spellcasting MP, once again, you will have 1.2x output. So you'll deal a lot more healing than you would get otherwise. But that being said, the average healing, and this is for no ferocious strikes, is 185 MP. Now that's pretty good. I think 185 MP per turn. Nice, some D tokens. 185 MP per turn is nothing to scoff at. That being said, though, the reality is in the ultra rare tier, there was also the Mosquito guest option. And this guy heals 230 MP on average. So I don't see much reason to get the Call Astral Mire guest. So that's why I'm kind of against it. I don't think it's a bad guest. I think if you wanted to run it, you could. But then keep in mind there's also Mana Bat in the rare tier, which basically does the same thing. I think it has lower average output, but you can boost it to do more because it scales off of damage dealt. Unlike this pet, which is a flat amount, or this guest. So, I'm not a huge fan of Astral Mire. I think as a rare box it would be awesome. As an ultra rare, I would say outclassed. So next up, the other spell I don't really like is Mana Cascade. So it's an overcharged water spell. I think it's 915 MP or something like that. And basically what it does is it pays about half its damage, not quite half its damage, like a third of its damage, a third and a half. Oh look, we got a little orb. It pays 100% melee to do a burn, and then it pays a little bit that to do a mana burn. If the monster doesn't have high mana, then it adds the burn onto the normal HP burn. So the reason I don't like it is we have a lot of water burn spells, and we also have an overcharged water Elevon spell. So like if you want an overcharged water spell, you should use the Elevon one. If you want a water burn spell, you should use, well, I shouldn't say you should use, but you could use a lot of other things, particularly depending on what weapon you're going to use, because there's like I think 2 water spellcasting weapons that do water burn. So you know, there's just a lot of good options that are not Mana Cascade. I think it's definitely a fine spell, and it does have that rare mana damage over time, which again, quite a rare effect. Not very common to see that anywhere. Am I not losing SP from this guy? Well, I cleared the battle log, so now we'll never know, but I'll keep my eye on that in a minute here. If you see me get distracted, that's probably why. Oh, I'm losing MP. I'm dumb. Never mind. Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of Mana Cascade. I think it could be pretty good. Is it worth a rare box? Maybe? For some people? I'm not too stingy with my rare boxes, so I might grab it. I might try it out. I don't know of any energy monsters that cast spells. I'm sure I could find one. I will just use a potion. Why not? Can't be bothered. But so I'm a medium-low fan on Mana Cascade, but not like trash. So next up are going to be the 3 big items. There's the 2 magus staves, which are rare boxes. These are the Warlic staffs. And then there's the 2 warcaster staffs, which are the ultra rare boxes. And then there's the arcane rift key, which looks sick and also an ultra rare. We'll talk about the rare weapons, the ultra rare weapons, and then the misc. So that's going to be the plan here. So for the rare weapons, we've got ice and water, and they both trade 10% melee and weapon damage to boost spell damage by 20% of that element. So they are almost as good as the cutlasses, which are ultra rare boxes. You might think, oh, but Bryce, why would they release rare boxes that power creep the ultra rare boxes? Don't they want people to buy the ultra rare boxes? First of all, yes. Second of all, did they think about that when they released them? Maybe, maybe not. But what is a reality is that there are already free-to-play gold cost items that boost spell damage by more. Arctic Athame boosts ice spell damage by, I believe, 37.5% when its trigger is active. And Tsunami Pen is like a 1.18 multiplier multiplicatively, so that usually adds up to more than plus 30% damage. Situationally it doesn't, but it usually does. So what I'm saying is, generally you won't see actually any sort of power creep from these just as a pure damage source. So they're not power creeping the cutlasses, they're not power creeping stuff that was already available. That alone is not really an issue. The cool thing about these, though, is the built-in spell they have, which I'm a huge fan of. Do you remember Claw Arm from a little while ago? That Dark 100 proc, which basically inflicted Elevon and gave you an Ellie shield? These do the exact same thing. They pay half their spell's damage. They have a built-in spell, so when you click it, you pay half your damage, and you get up to, and let me double check this. I believe 4 hits. Give me a minute. Okay, I had my numbers written down, but I forgot. But yes, so what you'll get is a 21% Elevon for 4 turns of the element, of course, water or ice, and then you'll also get a 21% Ellie shield as well for 4 turns. So you can cast this multiple times. It will stack with itself, which is, I think, a really powerful tool. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Claw Arm, which is essentially the FDBR version of that. 100 proc that pays damage to give Ellie-Vol and Ellie shields. I think it's a great defensive option. I think it's a great Beastmaster option. Boost your pets and guests while defending yourself. I don't know if I like it better for FD armor lean or spellcaster armor lean. I think in theory you want it in FD armor lean because the spell's already losing half its damage, so you don't gain as much from spellcaster lean. And on top of that, what am I trying to say? On top of that, you are probably going to be using pets and guests for damage, but like also Ellie shield is less helpful when you are in FD. So like, I don't know. I think you could probably use it on any spellcaster build and have a good time, to be honest. I don't think it's that deep. Just a really good effect, and I'm a huge fan. I think for a rare box, these are very, very good items, and I'd highly recommend them to any and all mage players who have a couple of rare golden gift boxes to spare. That being said, there's some crazy unique tools. These are good tools, but I don't think they're the best tools in the rare box for mages. For example, if you don't have Gandalfin, buy that. If you don't have Gandalfin's the only one I can think of, but like off the top of my head, there might be a couple others that are quite nuts in there. Yeah, it might just be Gandalfin, actually. Gandalfin's really good. It's a quick cast mana shield spell, for anyone who doesn't know. But yeah, so I think these weapons are really nice. I think they're a bit of a luxury buy because there's not that many situations you want Ellie-Vol and Ellie shield. Like, it's nice for bossing, it's good for damage, and just like balancing damage and defense. Also, just having the plus 20% damage is a really good option. Even though it's not like the highest, it's quite good. So I'm a huge fan of these. I think they're very strong. Well, I think they're very strong. I'm not actually a huge fan. I'm a little worried about the power creep with this release. But then again, I don't actually think these are good power creep. I think these are defensive play. So I don't really think it's like an issue in that sense. The warcaster staffs, though. The ultra rare staffs. So actually, let me just summarize, because I've kind of been rambling a little bit. So, Call Astral Mire, hard outcompeted by Mosquito. Mana Cascade, a fine way to inflict a water burn, but there are a lot of gold cost ways to do it, and there's a rare case for water burn MP damage. So, highly rare. I think you'll love this option. Mage's Staff rare box, awesome option. I'm a huge fan. I think it's really great. The Warcaster Staff, water and ice weapons. So these are magic staffs and also water and ice. So these are 0 proc weapons, but they funnel their 0 proc bonus. Oh, Spirit Rend. Interesting. Huh. Forgot he did that. But they funnel their 0 proc bonus into a spellcaster boost. So whenever you cast a spell, there's a 20% chance you'll get a basically a pretty strong, well, a pretty weak void burn for 2 turns, but a pretty strong minus 30% damage panic. So 20% chance of casting a spell and getting that effect for free. 0 upkeep. Sounds pretty good, right? But then again, it's like a 20 proc on a spell. Wait a minute. Okay, that just made me think of something. I'll put in a clip now if it's funny, but I might think it's not funny enough. Anyways, obscure meme reference aside, you have a 20 proc whenever you cast a spell with this weapon of getting a void burn and a minus 30% damage dealt. Panic. Pretty handy stuff. Pretty nice on its own. The next thing is you deal less damage on your weapon attacks, and you get to toggle between doing a burn, doing a panic, or doing both at half power relative to each other. So the burn is power 3 for 3 turns, which is 90% melee overall, which I think actually needs a buff. Hold on, let me run those numbers in my head. Yeah, it's underpowered by a little bit. It should be, I'm almost positive it should be power 4 for 3 turns. But either way, it's a nice but not crazy huge burn. It is quite a nice burn. Or you can have a minus 38.2% damage panic. That I'm not going to run the calcs on. I'm a little lazy, to be honest. But I think it's close to right. Wait, is it? Hold on. Okay, my eyeball maths are telling me that it may actually also need a buff to be higher than 38, somewhere around like 48. But do not trust my eyeball math, because I spent like 12 seconds thinking about it. But anyways, it inflicts a potent burn and a potent panic. And this is 0 resource cost. This is only from reducing your attack damage. Kind of like how the cutlasses work, but not how something like Mother's Growth Staff or the Heroic Titan weapon works, which pays SP to do it. So this does it for free. 0 extra resources used. I think these Warcaster staffs might be some of the best mage weapons in the game. That's an exaggeration. Is it? Panic is OP. I think these might be one of the best staffs in the game. Minus 40% or more damage dealt in a single turn from a single spellcast with 0 extra resource upkeep. That's the crazy thing. No extra resource input. No spell damage reduction. You could use this with a panic spell like Jania's Orb or Seeing Red. You'd have like, I think 70 plus damage reduction off of one spellcast. Like, cut your damage in a third instantly. Like, it's a really strong option. Crazy strong. And that's not even mentioning the 20 proc effect, which could, I mean, I don't even know how it would stack at that point. You'd probably be like taking 10% damage or 20% damage. So you could be in a full FO armor of the opposite element, be just fine. Like, it would be crazy, to be honest. So these weapons are nuts. This water weapon and this ice weapon lack competition in the sense that there's no defensive, well, there are defensive water spellcasting weapons, but none of them on this tier. nothing come close to the Warcaster staffs, ultra rares. I would say they're really good. That being said, you need to be using panic, and you need to be able to stack that panic and maintain it with status points. So if you're not using a panic build, or if you don't want to carry panic potency, these weapons are going to be kind of dog water. So definitely keep that in mind. Particularly against things with boss boost. Oh my gosh, we got it! Dragon Riot! Wow. Okay, hold on. Let me finish what I was saying first, and then we'll look at the dragon. The Ice Warcaster Staff. So, Water and Ice Warcaster Staff. If you use Panic, these weapons are probably like one of the best defensive tools in the game for mages. If you aren't going to use Panic, they won't be very helpful against bosses because of boss boost, and because Panic has a save every turn, it'll get thrown off really quick. That being said, if you're willing to synergize with them, really strong. They're also Intellect versus Charisma save for the Panic, so it's like a really good save roll. Just really good. So with that being said, we've got one more mist to talk about. One more item, which is the Mist. And then we've also got this Dragon Riot to talk about. I think this is a demi-boss. And I actually don't know much about it. I just know it exists, and now I'm looking at it myself. A massive pile of bones flies out of a nearby crypt with a roaring squawk, filling you with a familiar sense of loathing, such dread that you no longer care about proper spelling. I don't know the story behind the origination of this monster, but it's like a very rare drop chance in the quest of fighting this one. I think there's one other option too, another misspelling of it, but basically it's just a misspelled dragon wraith, and so we're just gonna cook him up a little bit. Oh, we love that. Also ignore the fact that I'm doing like 5k with a efficient spell. A wall of wind surrounds the dragon. So true, bestie. Hold on. Let me just... Alright. Damn. Wow. Well, I don't think he does anything special. I think he's just like the Dragon Wraith, but maybe with twice as much HP. Also, this is a boss that uses its mana, actually. I forgot to use the mana for the Wind Wall. I think we use the SP for the Wind Wall. The mana? I don't know. Oh, look. Almost done with the token cap. Reset in 2 minutes. Wait a minute. It's not. Also, when you fight one of these, you clear the whole section in one, so that's kind of fun, too. But anyways, I didn't think I'd find it this video. I plan to like come back here and yap about items for a while, so I'll have to find some new material next episode. Oh well. But anyways, Warcaster staff, I'm a huge crazy fan if you stack panic. If you don't, much less so. But they're still pretty good. And you can also use them as a burn weapon. I wouldn't use them as a burn weapon though, because there's a water one. Well, the water one isn't that good. It's the winged sapphire staff. I mean, it's pretty good for water burn, but it's not like crazy. But there is a poison one too, I think. But you pay SP for that, so it's less good. That's the Moon Predator from the Chupacabra quest, the poison one. So poison is Moon Predator. Winged sapphire staff is water burn. Prismatic bubble wand is prismatic burn if you wanted that. So I wouldn't pick these up for the burn. For the ice one, of course, we have ACL's Calamity Staff, which is just going to be higher ice burn for, I think, equal or less resources. You pay some spell damage, but definitely, potentially, if you're just using it for burn, I'd say save the ultra rare and enjoy your gold options. Not that Winged Sapphire Staff is a gold option, that's also an ultra rare, so definitely this over Winged Sapphire Staff, but moving on. Arcane Rift Key. So this is a water mist which gives intellect and luck and water defense for 79 SP. Sound familiar? Well, that is the exact stat line and resource cost of Opulent Opal. Well, maybe it's like 5 SP more, but Opulent Opal was a rare misc that was made for the 2023 anniversary shop. So it's funny that they made 2 water mists with in luck. Is what it is. Not a huge deal, but kind of cringe. I'll be honest, kind of cringe. So it comes with a quick cast skill you can use once per battle, and it costs 150% melee and SP, which I believe is 588. Yeah, sounds right. And these are all permanent effects. So you burn the enemy for power 1.7 harm, minus 25 end, and it gets a small MP regen permanently. You get a power 1.2 harm burn, a minus 10 end fragile, and I think you get a 0.2 regen and the enemy gets a 0.15 regen, I think. The subs say that. I don't know if they're right, but either way, you both get a small mana regen. That being said, 20% melee and mana is not at all bad. That's a pretty nice amount of resources. After your always useful and auto hit penalty, which is the penalty that regen takes, you'll be getting 80 mana a turn, give or take, on average, which is pretty good for a permanent effect. For the small price of having 10 fragile and like a tiny harm burn per turn, I'd say pretty nice. I'm a huge fan. Also, next time you cast a spell, you get a void burn for 150% melee, 3 turns, power 5. And you inflict with int versus int, so pretty good save roll, pretty good void burn. I'm a big fan. So the whole thing actually has a save though, it's not auto inflict, so it's versus burn, and if you fail it you can try again, but if you succeed you can only do it once. So that's the misc. One, it's nice for int luck. People who use lucky strike casting, having an int and luck drive is pretty good and pretty rare. There's only 2 other miscs in the game that do that. One is, as I said earlier, Opulent Opal, and the other is Warlic's Oblivion Sphere. Let me actually see what that does, because I forget. I believe it's I believe it like mind locks the enemy, so yeah, like really not that useful. That being said, it is cheaper because it doesn't give elemental resistance, so it's like 10 or 15 SP less per turn. Not that that'll be the deal breaker for most people. I'd say if you're gonna get a 50 int luck misc, definitely get the Arcane Rift Key, not Warlic's Oblivion Sphere, because Mind Block is so rarely useful, and this quick cast effect for permanent mana regen, among other things, is really cool. For me, I would only use the item for the permanent mana regen. I wouldn't really think too seriously about the other stuff. Although, of course, it is useful. But I think, for me, like, the thing that interests me most is the permanent mana regen. The Void Burn is definitely awesome. I mean, you could use it for the Fragile, too. Although, I'm led to believe the stacking is pretty buggy at the moment. Also, you're not supposed to be able to cleanse the fragile or the self harm burn. Don't know if you can. You probably can, to be honest, knowing AQ coding. But you're not supposed to be able to, so that'll probably be adjusted so that it doesn't do that, if it does currently. But that's the state of the items. I'm a fan of the Arcane Rift key, but it is a lot for a pretty niche effect. If you have Ultra Rest to spare and you're a mage, I'd say awesome, go for it. If you really want an int luck misc, I'd say awesome, go for it. If you really want permanent mana regen, it's the only way you're going to get it. I really want permanent mana regen, which makes it very attractive to me personally. As for everything else, I'll just go over it quickly again. Astral Mire Guest, I'm not a huge fan because it competes directly with Mosquito and it loses that competition. Mana Cascade, it's a nice water spell, but we have a lot of gold cost nice water spells too, so I'm not a huge fan. Mage's Staff, rare weapon. I think these are awesome. I do think that giving Ellie Vault and Ellie Shield at the same time is usually not necessary, but it's nice to have, and it's a cool defensive playstyle to use, so I'm a big fan. Don't buy them just for the damage, because, again, we have gold cost options that do the same thing. The Ultra Rare, if you use Panic, probably one of the best items for a mage in the game. If you don't use Panic, probably a pretty good item. Probably don't buy these weapons just for the burn, because there are good gold options that do that too. The Arcane Rift Key, this does something that no other item does. If you want that, get it. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm glad we found the Dragon Riot in this video, and I hope you enjoyed talking about the items. I thought they're pretty interesting. I may go into some strategies with them if I do decide to buy them, but we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. Bye bye for now. Hope you have a great day. Spread some peace and love. I'll see you later.